Welcome, fans. We are live on the Hannibal TV on YouTube with another edition of the news show that you know and love by now, the Hannibal TV this week, where we cover all of the happenings in the world of professional wrestling and some other topics too thrown in there along the way. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and I am joined by always by the one and only the godfather of the Hannibal TV, Hannibal himself. Hannibal, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great because I'm about to leave to Vegas after we do this, where I'm going to be getting some stem cells and exosomes through Jenny Santana's clinic there in Vegas. So I'm pretty excited. I'm also going to be shooting a scene for the upcoming Tommy Morrison documentary that the likes of Don King is also in this documentary, Lennox Lewis, Michael Buffer, Kenzie, who is Tommy Morrison's son, is also going to be in it. It's a big documentary, so I'm excited about that. And I just found out there's a cold plunge and steam room in the hotel I'm going to be staying at, and I had a cold plunge kind of where I'm staying here in Wichita, but it was only because the hot tub was broken, and it was really it was helping. These cold plunges really help, but now it's not there anymore. So it's like I'm going into like cold plunge withdrawal. Because for anyone who doesn't know, it's like putting an ice pack on your whole body, and it actually gives you an adrenaline rush. One day I want one in my own house, but at least I know for the next 3 days that I'm in Las Vegas, I'm going to have that. And also, one thing I'm doing there is tomorrow night. You've interviewed Sin before, aka Kazarni. I will be stopping by the wrestling school where Sin and D'Lo Brown and Disco Inferno, and they're going to let me basically live stream the practice. So that's going to be good, and maybe I'll even get in the ring a little bit. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, that's awesome stuff. I wanted to, before we get into the news, just ask you again how the training's going, because we're almost a month away, 4 weeks away from the event that will rock the independent scene in the Northeast, and that is the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance One and Done show on May the 3rd in Philadelphia in the former ECW arena. And you're going to ground Super Crazy, correct?
Yeah, and that's going to be the first time with you managing me. I'm shocked at the amount of people that have been contacting me from Philadelphia, telling me how excited they are to see me actually wrestle in Philadelphia. Because for people that don't know, this channel is actually one of like the top 7 cities is Philadelphia. So I've had this connection there. I've been there numerous times. There's that famous video there of Ted Hart and me and Melina where we're out one night there a few years ago. I've had my ups and downs with the city. There's some aspects of it I don't like, but I do like the fighting feel of the city. And I know that there's actually 3 ECW arena events in the month of May. One and Done is the first one, and my goal is to have the most memorable match in the ECW arena in the month of May of 2025, which is saying something. I want to have a good enough match, even though TWA is one and done, that some of these other companies that run that place, such as Battleground Championship Wrestling, start using me in the future. Because I was actually, a lot of people don't know this, back in 2021, I was supposed to have a Battleground Championship Wrestling match in September 2021. I was supposed to be Raven's surprise to wrestle Nunzio, I believe. But something happened with travel where I couldn't do it. So it's been held off. But again, that was just going to be a surprise. So now people actually know this. That's the difference. This is going to be a match that people know is going to happen. And it's exciting. And I know you've been to some shows at that arena, and you're a huge ECW fan. So I know you're excited about it too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Back in the day, in the 90s, the mid 90s to late 90s, I attended several shows at the former ECW arena on the corner of Swanson and Rittner in Philadelphia, and that's why I think I know what to expect from those fans. I've been getting some hate from those Philly fans that don't appreciate that we are true Canadian patriots, but all I'm going to say to them is Hannibal's going to go do his thing in the ring and finish off super crazy, and I'm going to handle all the other particulars that may come up. Thanks to the plotting of one Chubby Dudley, which I should mention tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're having episode 3 of the countdown to TWA One and Done with a very special guest. One half of the color commentary. Sorry, he is the color commentary, but one half of the broadcast team, Mr. Joel Gertner, the quintessential stud muffin. So that will be live here at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Are they streaming that, by the way? Is it going to be on Triller or anything? I know that my match is eventually going to be on the Hannibal TV. That's part of our agreement on why we've been able to put this whole thing together, but it's not going to be live. Is there going to be any type of live stream where people can order this?
Yes, to my understanding, it is going to be live streamed, and there will be of the show itself, and there will be a release on digital platforms of both the WrestleCon that starts at noon that day and the show itself in the evening. I'll have to brush up on those deep details, but the last time I spoke to folks in the know there, they said that it would indeed be live streamed in some capacity.
Very good. Well, that's exciting, but I would buy your tickets, guys, because I know the first rows of all the best seats are pretty much gone, and as it gets closer, I mean, it's going to fill up. Indie shows, people always wait till the last minute, but I would get your tickets in advance. It is the last ever Tri-State Wrestling Alliance event. And for anyone that doesn't know, Tri-State Wrestling Alliance was the predecessor to ECW. And whether you like me or hate me, I can say one thing people will probably would agree on. Out of all the wrestlers in Canada, I am the most ECW-ish wrestler by far. If you want to talk about someone that kind of embodies the spirit of ECW, that would be Hannibal. And I can honestly say there's some very good wrestlers in Canada, but there's nobody that has that. I'm not going to call myself crazy, but unstable mentality and wild mentality of those days. And that's because I started in 2001 wrestling when I was 17 years old, right when there was still a crossover of the old school with the new school. Now, I mean, that breed just isn't around anymore. So for the sad, I will say it's sad because you could say it's for better because there's less wrestler deaths. But the truth of the matter is, those people are still out there. They're just not working in wrestling. Those people still exist. Uh, Guys like Roddy Piper would never get an opportunity these days. They're too wide. Even Ric Flair, as great as he is, with all of the stuff he does outside the ring that actually has affected him in these days, he would not be used these days because he's just too controversial of a character. If he was trying to get into WWE, they'd be like, this guy is just not corporate enough.
Yeah,
Probably the most old school guy they have in WWE right now is Brock Lesnar, as far as that old school. And guess what? He's sitting at home getting paid the past 2 years because of these exact reasons. He's not. They'd rather pay him 12 million to sit at home and not work for AEW, just because he's a little too controversial. Even though, in my opinion, he did nothing that should be holding him off, but they're just playing it real safe.
yeah. Before we leave your upcoming match, I would say, in a word, you are a premier outlaw, the outlaw wrestler in Canada, and you're going to demonstrate not only that you can brawl excuse me, and fight, but also have great technical skill. And Super Crazy is going to find that out when his high flying maneuvers are ended.
And I'm not going to show any technical skill. I'll be very blunt. I'm going in there to crush him. And ECW Arena has been known as an ultra violent playground. This is going to be an ultra violent match.
Yep, very much looking forward to it. And as Hannibal said, get your tickets because this place will sell out at 2300arena.com. First news story is a sad one. The voice of world class, Bill Mercer, passed away. He was actually a guy who covered the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. He was 99 when he passed away on the 23rd from an aneurysm. A lot of fans remember his iconic presence on world-class broadcasts from the heyday, 82 to 85, and he covered so many of the major moments in the promotion. The death of David Von Erich, Gino Hernandez, Mike Von Erich, and so many other great, well, not that those are great moments, but so many other big moments in world class. He left the promotion in 1987. There wasn't really any reason why he did that, but is definitely fondly remembered by fans. And I know, Hannibal, you've interviewed Lance Von Erich recently, who certainly would remember Bill and other world class personalities such as Jimmy Garvin, etc. Were you a fan of his work?
Well, what I remember most of him is, and I know you were a fan of this segment, was the thing with David Von Erich and Jimmy Garvin that he was narrating that. Although I am a fan of like the history of world class, I can't say that I've watched much of it as far as the in-ring stuff, other than highlights and like clips for instance. So it's like it's not like I've watched enough matches of him calling the matches to really have an opinion of him. I know he also was involved directly with covering the assassination of JFK, which, by the way, how disappointing has been this files release. There's hardly been anything, but there's been a couple things, such as there has been some documents that have come out that have insinuated that he was interested in finding out more about UFOs, but I won't digress into that. But he also covered real sports and real news above wrestling. So I thought he was fitting for the time. He lived to be almost 100. One of the oldest personalities in wrestling still alive. And as I said, I'm not going to pretend like I know much or remember much about him. I'm sure there was other stuff that he did that I've seen that isn't coming to mind. But the main thing I remember, he played a good straight man in that famous Jimmy Garvin and Precious cleaning out the stables with David Von Erich.
Yeah, he was very much in the vein of a straight guy, a news guy, sort of similar to Gordon Soley. That style that is long forgotten or long past, given the way that announcers almost become part of the show itself today. But yeah, rest in peace. Definitely a guy that'll be remembered.
I'm not a fan of any of the announcers today. I'll just be very blunt about it. I can't tell you I'm a fan of any of the announcers. Jim Ross, God bless him, he's making a lot of money to sit on the sidelines. He would be what I would say is my favorite announcer, but I'm not saying any of them are necessarily bad. I'm sure Wade Barrett is good and everything, but like I'm not a fan of Pat McAfee. He's too over the top for me. Michael Cole to me is overrated. Which, by the way, if you ever watched the free for all of Survivor Series '97, you can see me as a kid jumping up and down behind Michael Cole.
Yeah, they certainly have a different approach to their job today. Next story, I got a real kick out of, and that is
you got a couple fan questions. Want to just bang these off before the next story because we don't want to ignore them. Someone all the way from Poland home of the Polish power, Ivan Putski, who, by the way, I interviewed in Philadelphia once. Speaking of Philadelphia, his son is very flaky. Scott Putski is a flake. I will say that right now. He's agreed to interviews with me a couple times and completely flaked out. What do I think of Vince McMahon, his return to wrestling? We'll let Jack answer this, but I hope and pray that he actually starts a new wrestling company. I don't know if that's going to happen. I understand that TKO might give him a role in the boxing league that's going to be based out of Saudi Arabia that they're getting a ridiculous amount of money for, and they want to give TKO like the biggest and create the biggest boxing league in the world based on these endless Saudi Arabia funds. But I hope that Vince starts his own league and then has it go to Shane when Vince passes. That's my honest hope.
Yeah, as much as I've said before, I don't really understand why he wouldn't want to be on a beach sipping mai tais. I can definitely see that happening now. Some competitor in some form involving Shane, since I guess AEW and Tony Khan didn't allegedly meet Shane's demands. I guess he wanted to be the head of creative and old message board. Tony didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big mistake. I mean, well, I guess Shane actually wanted a role that Tony Khan didn't want to give him. He didn't want to give him like as much control as Shane wanted, but I think that would have been a good thing for AEW. But I'm not going to delve into that too much. But people were talking about it. Wrestle Lutz, is it, or Lulz? Your
Whoa.
thoughts on GCW versus JCW 2-day war at the Gathering? This is the first I've heard of it. I like some of the Juggalos' music. That's really all I can say about that. And they should use Hannibal on that. Violent J, who I know Violent J's actually told me he watches my channel, but he's understandably very busy. They should use me in some capacity. Other than that, I really like the song "The Great Malenko" by the Juggalos, which is about Dean Malenko's father in a way. But I heard Violent J talking about it, and really he just liked the word Malenko. He didn't even know who the Great Malenko was at the time. He just was listening to the announcers talk about Dean Malenko, and then this song got into his head, the Great Malenko, and then it turned out that there was a real Great Malenko, Dean Malenko's father, who was famously in that Plan B video exposing the business that never was released.
Yeah, I briefly caught something along the lines of that event. And I think it'll be pretty interesting. I'll definitely check it out. And yeah, you'd fit like a glove in both a GCW and Juggalo Championship Wrestling environment. Wanted to mention this story though, Hannibal. About, I know you're a big fan of the Nature Boy, and last month a bipartisan bill was introduced in the North Carolina State Senate regarding funding, and this is a key part, funding the exploration of whether a Hall of Fame for wrestling would be bona fide for the state, starting with $500,000 in funding to look at viability by the summer of 2026. One of the bill's sponsors said that the idea is to celebrate pro wrestling's cultural and historic past in the state. Your shared cultural heritage in the state is college basketball, NASCAR, and professional wrestling. And professional wrestling hasn't gotten the recognition that it deserves. And it's being affectionately called the Ric Flair Act. So what do you make of that? It sounds like an interesting way to use 500 grand right off the hop.
I really don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna make that the WWE Hall of Fame or create a new Hall of Fame. To me, there's just too many Hall of Fames. But why not? If North Carolina wants to throw some money into wrestling, overall it's good for the business. So I've never been to North Carolina, by the way. Hope to go there sometime. Maybe you and I'll have to go down to one of these conventions one of these years. But I might be, by the way, in Arkansas next week for the first time. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, North Carolina is a beautiful state. So South Carolina been there many times over many years, and I agree. If they can find the funding for that and it ups the business and gets some recognition for it, North Carolina certainly does have a huge, rich history in pro wrestling. Some of my favorite stuff was the Jim Crockett promotion years, so we'll have to watch that and see how that turns out. Next story is, and I know you probably caught this one, Hannibal. WWE is bringing back an all women's evolution PLE premium live event this summer. 7 years after the first show took place, WWE is reportedly in development for this event and are planning it for, I guess, July 5th in Connecticut so far. And this is coming from highly placed sources. How do you think that's going to do? I don't believe the first one was as big a success as they were hoping for, but it certainly produced some great women's stars on the roster today.
Good day to you, Greg. Someone saying whoop whoop. I don't know what that's a reference to. Maybe the Hall of Fame. To me, again, for the pay-per-views, I don't have Peacock and they don't air on Netflix in the US. So I couldn't tell you, like I wouldn't watch it, so I don't really care about it. There's my comment on it. But an all women's pay per view, I mean, they got to come up with gimmicks. That's a gimmick.
Yeah, I don't think it turned out to be the revolution the way that it was presented. Although, if you look at the state of women's wrestling today as compared to even the early 2000s, it certainly has more of a profile and more events on the card. Well, look at it. There are separate Royal Rumbles, elimination chambers, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll definitely see. Again, I agree with you, though. I don't think it'll be something that I check out. Next story is a man that we both interviewed. One of my favorites, a legend, ECW original, Rob Van Dam, commented on that pretty controversial John Moxley, Adam Copeland, Cope, I guess they're calling him now, spot. And he said that basically he's asking if this is what AEW wants to be remembered about in terms of he said it's not my kind of thing. And he's answered critics that talked about what he did in ECW, and he countered by saying, he did a lot of stuff in ECW, but was always controlled. He said, I didn't like this. It's really crazy and dangerous. He said, I don't want to knock their freedom of expression. So he goes, congratulations on pulling off a crazy death-defying stunt, for better or for worse. He also commented on heel John Cena, but I'll get your thoughts on his take on that bed of nails, or actually, I guess, spiky board of nails.
I mean, that's just a stunt. I wouldn't say it's death defying. It was done basically where there's some nail tips that go into his back. Is it dangerous when I hate the name Cope, so I'm just going to keep calling him Edge. I like him. I like him as a person. Nothing against him. I'm not a fan of that Cope gimmick. I don't think anybody is. But yeah, I mean, there's a safe guy doing a stunt. John Moxley's getting whatever he's getting, 6-8 million a year. He doesn't wrestle that much. He wants to do. It got people talking. I mean, that's all people were really talking about, I think, from Dynamite that week. I even looked it up. So if they want to do it, I wouldn't recommend people doing that stuff on the indies where the stuff might not be sanitized. A lot of indies, particularly in the US, do not have insurance if you get hurt. It's much more stricter in Canada, where you pretty much have to have insurance to run most buildings. There's doctors in the back. They're going to have a professional put this gimmick together. So I would say I don't think it's actually that dangerous what they did, and it got people talking. Uh, that's all. I really don't have an opinion on it one way or another. Is it going to help or hurt the business? It got people talking. It gave. I mean, I don't even know who won the match. I'm going to assume it's Moxley because I think he's the champion right now, and I'm pretty sure he still has the title. But that's what people it got people talking. So that's all I can say about that. RVD is associated with WWE now, and the same and this. I mean, those guys can't do the stuff that RVD does. Edge has a bad ankle now, and Moxley is never known to have like those abilities at RVD. So if you don't have the abilities, figure out another way to get over or do something memorable, and that's what they did. But I think it's not good on the indies where it's not going to be done professionally, but a multi-billionaire doing this, why not?
Yeah, and he also made a comment about whether heel John Cena should have changed his look. He goes, I think it would have been good, but if he doesn't want to change his look, that's cool. He said, I've never had to change my look, but if he did, it would really drive the point home in an obvious way. And he said he could see goth John Cena.
I think that's already fallen pretty flat now because I'm hearing even the fans of WWE now are saying, okay, so now there's actually been 3 segments of Cena just standing in the ring talking to Cody with nothing happening. And now I think they're advertising that again. The face to face Cody and John Cena tonight on Raw. Well, we've seen face to face in 3 other segments now. Like, and what happened with The Rock and the rapper guy? Like, they're just there for one day and never mention again. To me, like, that type of stuff makes more of a difference than if he's changing his gear. And I've even heard Dave Meltzer say this on the Wrestling Observer Radio, who, by the way, Al Snow says is the greatest worker of all time. Dave Meltzer. um, he was saying that, like, when John is saying he doesn't like the fans, everybody knows he likes the fans. Everybody knows he loves the fans. That's why he's the number 1 Make-A-Wish guy of all time. So it like if you're gonna try and sell us on something for John Cena, like you're picking a weird thing to try and make us hate him for because we all know that in real life he actually really does love the fans. But overall, let's hope tonight, and I ain't watching it, but let's hope tonight it's something better than let's just stand in the ring. You guys nearly killed me, but I'm just going to stand here and talk again now for the 4th time, and there's going to be no touching. I don't know. I can't identify with it at all. And even Cena, what? He's a heel. Has he done anything further? Am I missing it? What else dastardly has he done since the big turn? I don't know. I've tuned out. They didn't hold my interest.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think largely the heel turn hasn't really been executed the way it could be or should be. Maybe they're trying to avoid the usual tropes, as they like to say, of pro wrestling.
And I'll agree with MSB here. Everyone's like, "Why are you going to Vegas this week and not next week for WrestleMania?" Which, by the way, the Infinite Wellness Stem Cell place that I'm going to the next couple days, they have a deal on 500 off WrestleMania week. Just search up Jenny Santan on the internet and ask her about it. But someone's mentioning what a horrible build to WrestleMania. What the hell is there of interest other than Cody Rhodes and to me and Cena who's going to win that match? That's all I care about. I don't think there's 2 days worth of stuff. Everything else is just blah to me. The Gunther Jey Uso 2nd title thing, like I got zero interest in that. Like it's other than the Cena match, I really have no interest in anything of WrestleMania this year.
What about CM Punk finally getting his main event headlining one of the nights in that triple threat with Reigns and Rollins?
By the way, I hope that Ric Flair does make an appearance. Is that going to be the last match with CM Punk? And again, with WrestleMania is 2 nights now, so is it a special when it's delayed? To me, I'm not a fan of Seth Rollins, and I'm not a fan of three ways. I would rather see Punk and Reigns in a single. I would much rather see that. But to me, I'm not into it. Like I haven't seen enough to make me care about that match. I thought that there was more. And again, I'm not a Drew McIntyre fan at all. I don't like how he breaks kayfabe constantly. I know everybody does, but it's like he makes zero effort to try and keep kayfabe at all. But like, there's been nothing happen to make me want to see Punk versus Reigns versus Seth, and I'm not a fan of Seth. I just have zero interest in that. I would have maybe liked to have seen Punk versus Reigns with a better build up. Then what have they done? Enlighten me. What have they done to build this up? Because I don't know. I haven't seen anything, and I do follow the highlights.
They had a contract signing involving Paul Heyman, and CM Punk started to cry, and I'm forgetting something else. Roman Reigns commented that it was the best check of the year, and as usual, I've forgotten what Rollins did. I'm with you on him.
I just don't like that. Like, is he a good fake wrestler? Yes. Does he have real skill? No. We saw him got beat up by the fan. The singing stuff. I'm not a fan of this whole everybody sing. Does he have cool outfits? He puts a lot of effort into his outfits. He's banging Becky Lynch. Good for him on that. But to me, while he's a good quote unquote wrestler, fake wrestler, not real wrestler. But he can do he can put together an exciting pretend match. I'm just not into his character at all. But I'm not. I would like he'd be the type of guy I would like to wrestle if I had a contract there because he seems like a type of guy that'd be real easy to have a good match with. But he doesn't do anything for me as a wrestler. As I said, if MSB says there's no stakes in that three-way match, there's no stakes and there's no like vendetta to me. It's just like let's throw these guys in a three-way. And I hate watching three-ways and I hate doing them. They're not fun to do. I'm not a fan of them.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Absolutely, but I guess the
Good
draw
point
now.
here too. Punk did not win Rumble or Elimination Chamber. From a standpoint that this is an athletic contest, if we're still trying to pretend that at all, how is he main eventing? But again, if this was a one night WrestleMania and it was the best of the best, does this even count? And another point from one of our members. Thank you, by the way, for becoming a member. We're going to be doing more and more members content. We've already started increasing it. Seth said he's the one quarterback that he'd like to beat up. Good luck with that. I'm not sure what he's referring to there. Do you know?
No, again, I blissed out when Rollins was on the screen.
Jay won the Rumble, won't main event. I don't think people care. Like, I know Jey Uso has his fans, but like people like me, and I'm not saying he does too much super kicks. Honestly, for my taste, I'm not a fan of the leg slapping. But that's another character I'm just not into. I would rather see Haku come back and wrestle someone. As sad as that sounds, I wish they would use Haku for something. That would make me interested because his sons are in there and they're doing the whole Samoan stuff. Let's get Haku in there for something.
Yeah, and speculation is running wild about whether or not the WWE partnership with TNA could be a sign that they're preparing to buy the company. A man who the Blood Hunter destroyed a few years ago at the 15th anniversary GNW show, Cowboy James Storm, thinks it's possible. He said it's kind of toe in the water situation. I'm sure WWE would love to buy TNA just for the library. You could have all the guys when they were in their prime with AJ, Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe. You know, all the guys that were in the WWE now, they can show in the library, especially being on Netflix now. And I guess he's saying that TNA would be a good resource for them in terms of continuing as a developmental territory. I don't know if they need to do that, but the library certainly would be valuable after My goodness, they've been in business a long time now.
Well, there's already a multi-year deal with the two companies, and who knows if there's a clause in that they could buy the company at some point. But they stream on Endeavor's streaming services for the TNA pay-per-views. There's a talent exchange deal. We're seeing all the signs here. WWE is helping fund them. It's like what they did with ECW. Like they're at some point in time, and I'm not even a betting man, but I would bet on this. They're just going to take it over, and right now they're in the process of like getting rid of the people that they didn't like from the old regime and putting matters in place so when they do take over, it'll be a smooth transition, I believe. But yeah, it's only a matter of time. But TNA, I've heard Dave Meltzer say this. He doesn't think there's been 1 year that company ever made money. And if there was, it would have been in that Spike TV era.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
but then Dixie Carter ended up blowing her load on the Hogan stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which was a horrible decision by all accounts. But yeah, I mean, to me, I don't think they were doing much good before WWE took over, and they weren't making money. They were making female. Scott D'Amore made a female the men's champion, and then let her leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Good luck to Scott and what's her name? Um, who he's given a big push. Scott, I guess, has started a company and he's giving his transgender partner a big push. So, and here's what I find funny. Good for them if they want to do that, but stop telling me this is an old school product when you're using transgenders in the women's division. To me, that's not old school. Like it just isn't. Stop telling me that. That is not old. That has no reflection at all on old Canadian wrestling. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I think it's a good thing that TNA is more people are talking about it now, and they're doing bigger crowds than they have in a long time. But it's really a subsidiary of WWE at this point.
Yeah, what do you make of the letting go of Gail Kim and all the outrage online about her, being removed from her duties? I've seen a lot of people, similar to when D'Amore was shown the door. A lot of fans seem to be quite upset about that. I'm assuming you've met Gail Kim. Have you interviewed her?
No, I met her at when I had that WWE tryout that I was signed from back in 2009. One of the days she gave a speech at that tryout. She had at that point she had just crossed back from TNA. So that was literally the only day I met her. It was just a handshake, and basically the purpose of that speech was to kind of tell us how much better WWE was at that time than where she had just left. They had various current, like Jericho gave a speech one of the days. Oleg Prudis gave a speech one of the days. Johnny Ace gave a speech one of the days. I think it was a 4-day tryout. But and who else was CM Punk's current girlfriend was signed out of that tryout that I was at.
AJ
She was,
Lee.
yeah, she was the biggest name other than me to come out of that tryout. Just kidding. But for Gail Kim, I mean, Jim Ross has already publicly stated he'd like to see her in AEW. She'll probably end up in AEW with a larger contract and a more stable, like what. It's safe to say I've never heard of TNA paying anything substantial. I just posted um, a video I got of Dustin Rhodes that I obtained from
Mm.
RF Video, a seminar, and he talks in this seminar that TNA doesn't pay anything. And whenever he did that, he said at that time TNA should not be your goal because you can't have TNA as your main job. It doesn't pay enough. You have to subsidize it. And that was filmed at the time of TNA's peak, around 2010, 2012. So and I've heard in recent years like nobody's making big money there. Probably the highest paid are the Hardys, whatever they're getting there. So I think Gail Kim will. will end up better, but there's obviously some behind the scenes office reason why they didn't want her there. That's what it has to do with, and they're going to make those decisions based on the stake that they have in that company, whatever that mysterious stake is.
Yeah, speaking of releases, one individual.
Oh, and by the way, I'll just say one thing where someone's bringing up what's WWE's plan? Will they buy TNA in the future? PCO last year, when he was still with TNA, I remember him calling me because I was saying even last year that WWE was eventually going to take over. And he called me about something to do with the TNA pay per view in Montreal. And he told me it was all bullshit. TNA is very safe. They have a good team there. Where is PCO now? He's
Mhm.
gone. So he didn't even last till the end of the year after he said that.
Yeah, he was definitely shown the door too. But this guy, Bishop Dyer, formerly known as Baron Corwin, commented on his WWE firing. I'll just give you a little bit of it. Part of me is angry. If we're being realistic, part of me is angry that I got let go because, again, I've always done everything that was expected of me and done it well. And I was getting great reactions on the shows. I was getting fantastic reactions and doing great matches. I reinvented myself. Yes, he did several times. And Hunter told me, great job reinventing yourself. You should be really proud. And then I got let go. And then he goes on to talk further about how his situation could be the kind of spark that led to Cody Rhodes' career renaissance, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think about Baron Corwin? Was he one of these guys that was a big deal in NXT and just didn't translate on the main roster, or did he not get a
No.
fair shake?
I mean, there's another guy. He was a football player that got a contract. He had his run. He was lucky. They liked. I heard Vince McMahon really liked his look. He had a long run, and we'll see where he ends up. But do I think he's a guy that's going to light the Indies on fire? I understand he has been doing the Indies. There hasn't been there so far. There hasn't been a buzz about it. I have nothing against him at all, but I don't see him being a guy that. Well, first of all, Rhodes had the Rhodes name. And at the time when Cody went on the Indies were pretty hot. AEW didn't exist. The Indies overall was hot, and he went around and did all the big ones, and he did increase the crowds at the big ones. Uh, Again, I've heard that he has been doing Indies, but I'm not hearing a big buzz about him. And I don't think he. The thing is, he was basically losing all the time, right? In WWE, then he was in NXT. I know he lost against the NWA champion on a recent indie event. So it's like, it's not, I know Cody, because we were going to use Cody at one point. He had a clause in his contract that he would not lose on the indies. I'm sure he made exceptions a couple times, but there was a couple things. He would not accept any titles. He would not lose, and he would win clean. Those were some of the rules of Cody. And I don't think Baron Corbin has that kind of pull to make those kind of demands on the Indies, because he's not. When Cody went on the Indies, it was hot because he left the WWE, from my understanding, right? He
Yeah,
actually quit to
yeah.
go on the Indies, and that's the difference. Corbin kind of fizzled out, but I got nothing against him, and he seems like a nice guy. But again, it's not a guy. I don't. People that don't pay their dues and are paid to train like he was, I just don't like them from a guy that's paid crazy dues like me. I don't sympathize with them when they get fired, when they've been paid all the way through and not paid any dues.
Yeah, and don't forget, I don't think Baron Corwin here will have such a fine opponent in Nick Aldis as Cody did. Weren't those classics? I know you're a fan.
Yeah, well, you know what? I will say this. All this, I mean, I don't. As much as I can blame when he was champion, he was one of the better champ. I would say other him and Tyrus of the modern Billy Corgan era were the two best. NWA title holders. The titles were over the most with them. I had some questions about all this. For instance, he went to Cauliflower Alley Club and didn't even bring the belt. It's like you got to get the belt over, but like there was just more to it. Like I don't even remember Thomas Latner or something is the NWA champion now. Like a nobody, and a guy that's not bringing any buzz to the title, and the guy before EC3 really is EC3 NWA champion worthy? Today's NWA, yes, which is not popular at all. NWA was one of the victims of AEW. Once AEW appeared,
Really?
NWA, I would say MLW even has more buzz about it than NWA.
Yeah,
Without a
that's a
doubt.
shame. I thought they started off strong with their YouTube show, and I kind of like Tim Storm, older Harley Race-esque champion, but yeah, they're definitely falling down. Just a note for fans of the Hannibal TV who saw my interview with Mike Cashflow Walden. He is now graduated to be a series regular for season 3 of Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. If you haven't seen that interview, it was about 4 or 5 months ago. Check it out. Very interesting guy. Happy for him. Definitely paid his dues over the years in OVW, and he plays that character, Bigfoot, really well. Want to head into our last news item of the week, and it's an interesting one. Logan Paul slams CM Punk and his MMA experience. He said that he contacted Dana White about fighting in the UFC and never heard back. He said that he wanted to be on the show at the Sphere, but thought it was UFC 300. He felt Punk screwed it up for other pro wrestlers. And here's his quote: "I haven't bothered him about it," that being Dana, "since. I think for the right fight and the right amount of money, and I'm an entertainer at the end of the day. He fucked it up," Paul said about Punk. He fucked it up. And after that, Dana was like, "I'm never doing this again. But dude, I'm not CM Punk. He's a great wrestler, not a UFC fighter. I think I would be a much better UFC fighter than I would just a boxer."
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Dana White say that the last fight that Punk had wasn't even good enough to put on UFC Fight Pass, which like shows independent fights, and he was really disappointed of how much CM Punk brought down the credibility of MMA. So Logan is right. But I do, if I was, I mean, there's probably more to the whole situation because if I was Dana White, I mean, here's the real story of the situation. They have a pay-per-view deal with ESPN now where they get a flat rate no matter what they put on pay-per-view. So Dana White does not care if they use Logan Paul and get a huge pay-per-view buy rate because ESPN gets the same amount no matter what. So that's what it's about because we can all agree that the UFC pay-per-views are not as big a deal these days because they get that flat amount.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's got a good deal going with his attraction pay-per-views, and probably why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Last thing, Hannibal, did you hear about new Legends deals being signed posthumously for or by the family of Brian Crush Adams and Kamala finally getting a deal along those lines? I know you've interviewed him, and he certainly had some issues with his treatment in WWE.
I mean, that's great that the family's going to get some money, and I hope that he is inducted into the Hall of Fame. I've said this before. I think it's bullshit that they're putting Typhoon in there before a guy like Sid. Name me your favorite Typhoon match. And the thing is, people always say, "Well, the Shockmaster was memorable." Actually, when that happened, no one even cared about it because it only got popular when YouTube came out. Like they could have actually just pretended that never happened because only the people that saw it live saw it. But it's like he didn't get over by multiple characters, and he never had any longevity. I don't know, but by the way, I went back and looked here. Here's what Cody Rhodes was asking: $3,000 plus airfare from Atlanta. He has approval on his opponent and the finish in order to make sure he provides the best possible match for the fans. He'll promote the event. Um, and yeah, I mean, I could go through it in other emails, but there was rules that he could not lose his match, and I might even be able to find that here. But there was yeah, I think I have found it. But Cody had a lot of say, and the match didn't end up working out for this particular show, but it was going to happen further down the line. But then when we had him solidified, he ended up getting an Arrow job. So yeah, there's another thing. He can't take any third party independent titles. Um, so basically, there was a lot of rules surrounding booking Cody back in those days that I don't think Baron Corbin, just to answer your question, I don't think Baron Corbin could make such demands because Cody had a lot of buzz. So I was actually going to succumb to those demands because, for instance, he wouldn't wrestle anyone that was the champion. The show, I was the champion. We got around that. The show before I was supposed to wrestle Cody, I dropped the title to PCO. But sadly, again, Cody ended up getting an Arrow job, and obviously, I don't blame him. That took priority over an independent event, and that was part of the deal. If he got an acting job that came up, we would have to accept that he got an acting job, and that's what happened. So anyone that saw the original Cody Rhodes promo that I did, that was because, and I'll even look it up. That was because I was actually supposed to wrestle him, but seeing how I'm really disappointed that match never happened. That might actually be the match in my career that I'm most disappointed never happened.
Well, and he also didn't answer your challenge when he had that open challenge deal going, which, despite a massive amount of fan support and videos sent to AEW, didn't acknowledge it. Which I think they left money on the table there. Did they not?
He did acknowledge it.
Oh, he did.
He said that he wasn't going to do it because I had mentioned Dusty Rhodes in the promo, and he had a rule that nobody could mention his father. He mentioned it on Twitter. I have the screenshot of it.
Really?
Yeah, that was, and again, he's got over the most since then by basically embracing the whole Cody Rhodes thing. Because I'll tell you what, The Rock has certainly taken some shots at his father and mother, and I didn't even. All I said was make Dusty proud, accept the challenge. I didn't insult his father, but that was the excuse. He said he mentioned my father, and I am determined to break out of the legacy. Blah 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 blah. But
Well, then
yeah,
you
it's
could have
too
cut
bad it
another
never happened.
promo. You could have cut another promo then and not mentioned Dusty. I think he was ducking it.
Yeah, I mean, again, it got a lot of buzz, and it was one of the things that helped my channel take off. So for anyone that for love or for hate me, and I had the support. People can watch the match. Billy Graham talked for me. Terry Funk, Jerry Jarrett, Conan even stuck up for me and said yes, this match had to happen. No one else that he had the open challenge with had the support from legends that I had going into that. Jacques Rougeau even did a promo for me saying do the match.
Well, that's one of those what ifs that will go down in history, no doubt. Hannibal, I know you're a little bit squeezed for time today. Do you want to impart any closing remarks to all the great fans that are watching live today?
Oh, by the way, I'll answer just these last couple questions. With Rhodes, he was supposed to have in 2000, I believe. I think it was either 18 or 19. It was before AEW started. He had agreed to a match with me in Hawkesbury, Ontario that August. It did not end up happening due to an Arrow conflict. Further down the road, he had an open challenge in AEW that I had a lot of momentum for to be. He was wrestling indie guys. People were supporting me to face him, and he did duck me there. They didn't do it. So that's the whole backstory there. 40 years ago today was WrestleMania 1. Can you share a link to our podcast on the wrestling site? Of course. Share it around. Help get the word out. Phil, cool. You watched it. Thank you for becoming a member, by the way, Phil. And yeah, WrestleMania 1 at the Worcester Centrum back in the days before everyone had pay-per-views. Did Dustin Rhodes flick out on me? Yes, to tell that story. And again, he talks about his drug issues and again, I think there is some legitimate heat with me and the Rhodes family based on that. Back in 2007, I did the official Bad News Allen memorial show in Cochrane, Alberta. We had 1,300 fans there. One of the featured matches on that show was going to be Goldust. I forget who. I think he was going to wrestle Randy Myers. Randy Myers, who later, and you guys could ask him about this, he later went into Defy in Seattle, and I think he still wrestles for them. Then the next night in Edmonton, it was supposed to be me against Goldust. And I had known Goldust from Puerto Rico a little bit. So we had an agreement. He took a deposit for both shows. And by the way, at the time, he lived in Jacksonville, which was a huge flight to, at the time, Alberta, basically crossing the country and going north. He took his deposit. Then the day before the show, he said he had no money. Unless we send him the second half of the deposit, he would not show up at the show. So we sent him the second half of the deposit, and he no-showed. So he took the full amount for 2 shows and a highly expensive flight and no-showed. So again, the fans were mad at us, and it actually killed the town because we tried to go back the next year. It didn't even have a quarter of the people. People were really excited about Goldust. And then, by the way, when he no-showed, he said, "I'll make it up to you. I'm so sorry." And of course, how we explained Goldust wasn't there. Randy Myers came to the ring in Cochrane, got on the mic, and said Goldust no-showed, and then he did an open challenge. And Goldust, when I called him to do the next show, he said, "Don't worry, I'll do the next show free." He said, "You guys said I no-showed, and it got in the news. Fuck you." And he hung up on me. So it's like he took all of our money, made us look bad, and then he said he would make up to it. And when we called him about it, he told me to F off. So yeah, he was a real pleasant there. And, even though he's making a lot of money now, he never paid it back. So maybe there was some lingering heat from that, which why Cody never gave me a shot when he was doing that thing. But again, it's the independent promoters that get the heat when these guys no-show, and then we lose all this money. That's part of the reason why I don't like promoting indie shows. And that was well documented at the time because, again, that was actually the tribute show for Bad News Allen. It was about Bad News Allen. So it's like slapping Bad News Allen in the face, and the fans were really mad about it. And I was disappointed because I was a Goldust fan, and I wanted to wrestle Goldust in Edmonton the next night. And it ended up being me and Abdullah in a tag team match against 2 local guys. So it was disappointing all around, but I held a grudge for that for a long time. I don't hold a grudge on it anymore. Whatever. I'm glad he's turned himself around and is trying to spread a positive message these days. And again, to prove that I don't hold the grudge, I've posted one of his seminars, which was pretty interesting to watch. So I'm checking out. I got to go to Las Vegas. Hope everyone has a great day, and subscribe to the Hannibal TV. Lots of great footage coming. Become a member. We have a lot of members only footage on its way as well. So appreciate it. And if you become a member, it's only like $1.99 a month, and it actually supports us and helps us get better interviews and content. There's also more girls matches coming later this week.
That's it for this edition of the Hannibal This Week. For Hannibal, I'm Jack Kilby saying If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and hit the notification button to not miss any of the great content.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal